amanuenssina. Tämä keskustelu tullaan tosiaan käymään englannin kielellä, mutta voitte tosi mielellään siinä keskustelun lopussa esittää kysymyksiä myös suomeksi tai ruotsiksi. So the language of this conversation will be in English, but if you have any questions, there is some time at the end, so you may also ask them in Finnish or Swedish, and then we try to translate them. And this conversation will be recorded, so if you don't want to have your voice on a record, then I will say when the record will stop. But warmly welcome to the Aine Art Museum. My name is Amanda Hakoköngäs and I work here as a curator. And today I have pleasure to have with me two great artists, Raisa Raekallio and Misha del Val. And maybe I will sit. This is a bit too official. I hope you hear all. Can you hear us? Maybe you can say something to your mics.
Hello, can you
Hello.
hear me? One,
Yes.
two, 1, 2.
1, 2, 1, 2.
Good, great.
Olin harjoittamassa suomea koko matkan Johanneksen kanssa ja nyt tehdään englanniksi. Meni turhaan.
So Misha has been, you speak also good Finnish, but now we decided to have this in English. Yeah, great. So exactly a week ago, we opened an exhibition here at the Aine Art Museum by you, Raisa and Misha, and the exhibition is titled Lapin Piha, and the title is in Finnish, which could be translated to Lapland's yard or something like that. But you didn't want to translate it actually. Maybe can you say why the title is in Finnish? I think many of the works are also named only in Finnish.
That was your idea.
Why didn't we, Raekallio?
It was your idea, so you explain.
Well, I have been in walks and looking at the landscape and finding those beautiful relationships between the things that are sometimes abandoned, sometimes storaged by people, and the relationship with the environment and the landscape. And I've got to recognize a new kind of beauty, not only the beauty of the landscape, which is of course majestic, but that kind of relationship between the traces of humans' activities and the landscape. And I think Lapin Piha somehow encompasses that relationship.
Would you like to add something, Raisa?
Yeah, well, exactly this, but you didn't respond to the question, like why wasn't it translated to English?
Yeah, maybe that was a tricky question also. I mean, you don't need to answer, but just
Yeah.
Let the questions to Amanda.
Yes. I think that those are the landscapes that I have been seeing the whole life through, because I was born in Kittilä, Sirkka, and I've seen those. My father was metsuri in those days, and there was always things in the yard and things in the that's kind of the landscape that I was raised with, that there is things and objects and machinery, and they somehow are melted with this beautiful nature. That's
A lumberjack, no?
Lumberjack, yes.
Like the Monty Pythons.
Yes.
yeah. So,
But not that exact.
so you had this concept of painting landscapes quite early when we started to talk about this exhibition, and already you had the title also quite early. So when I'm thinking your earlier works, there are many characters and maybe people in a landscape or in a space, but in this exhibition we don't see actually any people there. Is it so?
Yeah, that's right. And somehow it made sense to present these works in Lapland at the Aine Museum. It's something that somehow has been with us. We have we have been joking about it and talking even more seriously about it, and we had this opportunity to show our work in this this wonderful institution in Lapland, and so we thought that was the time to present the sceneries of Lapland. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think in the beginning, that's true that when we started to paint together like 10, 11 years ago, we were first making landscapes. Well, we were painting each other, but then we also started to paint the landscape. And because it's so interesting, the landscape in the north, because there's so many, as you know, there's so many seasons. It's not only 4 seasons, there's all the gliding middle seasons when this kind of rospuutto time, and I don't know what that is in English, but this, yeah, when the snow melts and then there comes more snow, and all this gray and brown zone, this time when it's not depicted so much in the arts, in the paintings, that those kind of times. So we wanted to also bring those times to the front. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And if someone is not familiar with your works and how do you work, so in this exhibition we see paintings that you have painted together, and that's the method you're actually using. So as you, Raisa, said, you have been working together now more than 10 years already. And in this exhibition, is it so that all of the works we see there are actually made collaboratively?
Yes, they are. We paint in different ways together. So some of the works are painted, like the big ones are painted at the same time on the same canvas. But then some of the smaller ones that we have turns, we take turns and paint. Like it might be that Misha is cooking inside the house and I'm painting, and then we swap, and then he works in the same painting.
Yeah, but mostly we are together at the studio.
Yes,
and
true.
You might be working in one painting and I may be working in a different painting, and then after a little while we swap. And as you were saying, if the canvas allows, is big enough, then we go together and we paint in different parts of the same painting.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Yeah, it's like the figurative aspect that we were just mentioning before is somehow is the first layer, is the surface layer of the works. Then of course we have these 2 people working, painting together. One of us, Raisa, is a local. She's grown with these landscapes. I've been here for over a decade now. So I bring different eyes to these lands. And so then a mixture of these 2 perspectives can converse in the paintings.
Mm.
Yeah.
Can I say something?
Maybe we wait a little bit.
Yeah, maybe at the end.
Connected to this, because I have to leave.
Okay, so quick question.
So, yes, it's not a question actually, it's a note. I have seen you guys painting Getsemane in Italy a few years ago. Just by accident, you happened to be there. And the reason why I wanted to say this is that do you hear what I say?
I do, yeah.
Okay. Is that the collaboration that you had, you really paint like one. I mean, I've never seen that kind of thing before. I have many collaborations myself. I'm an artist, I don't use painting, I do other medias, you know. But the way that you just changed your places and the other one stops and the other one starts and there's no discussions in between or planning or something. It was just like one person painting it, only that it was you and not one painter. That's very interesting.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. So there was a comment about how actually, and I have already heard many of similar comments after we opened this exhibition. So it's quite unbelievable that in these paintings they are actually, yeah, it's really unique that there are 2 people painting these artworks, but you have somehow, yeah, how would you describe yourself? Like, what's your visual language? Like, I can see that it has been maybe changing a bit during these 10 years you have been working together.
Yeah, I think we both have our strengths and we know each other quite well, and we have been painting so long time together, so it has of course developed by years. But I think from the beginning it was clear that okay, there's something that works, and something that Misha has very strong use of paint somehow, that the paint talks, how he kind of and then the paint does something on the canvas, and then I've been more like how to say, I need to feel the if we make characters, I need to feel it, or I need to somehow find like this gut feeling to get in. So these are one aspect only of our collaboration, but it's something that we know that we have these strengths, and then we know how to kind of serve with those ones. But of course we all the time we change and we develop hopefully, and we change those roles as well. And yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Juha, for sharing your perceptions.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you for your kind words on the way I work. So this is what I would like to get to, and I feel like I don't most of the time, but to make the paint speak and to make interesting combinations and happenings that unfortunately live or abide beyond one's skills. I think they are acts of almost grace. They are almost like gifts of the process when they happen. So yeah. But I like to state that it's a relationship based in mutual trust, and without this trust, without the trust, there's no way, Jose. So when you're saying that, you know, I can be washing dishes in the kitchen and making and cooking and playing and making food because I know Raisa is there doing the work, and I have trust that, you know, whatever she does just like, you know, and of course whatever we do, that we can always repaint and paint from there. So that makes it also more interesting as an individual to have an input of a different person to respond to. Makes it interesting in that respect. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super exciting. I think that there's two of us. That I find the work just very exciting to work with Misha. That it's not dull, and there can be happening all kinds of things in the canvas that you would never. I think either of us could make what we have been making here. That we couldn't paint like this alone, individually.
Yeah, that sounds so luxury, but I think it was nice. There is actually a text when you go to the exhibition, so there is an interview. I was few nights in Kittilä, visited you, and then we made this tiny text together, and then there is a beautiful sentence. Is it Raisa, maybe you, who says there that you couldn't even imagine this kind of artworks without Misha or something like that. I can't remember exactly how the sentence goes, but I think it's really inspiring and beautiful way to say it.
Yeah, I think we both agree that the works we create would have been impossible, utterly impossible, to be created by any of us individually. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, really fascinating.
Yeah.
So you have been mentioning, so you live and work in Kittilä, which is around how many kilometers from Tornio up north? Now
from Rovaniemi it's
170 from Rovaniemi.
170
up north.
And
yeah.
how much is it from?
Yeah, so
Depends on the weather.
200 maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And is it so that one of these works, which is now in this exhibition, you have actually painted outside, so not even in the studio? The biggest one, partly at least.
Yeah, the end part had to be inside because it was so cold already outside.
So it's quite.
But yeah.
Yeah, it can be cold there in Kittilä and in your studio.
Yeah, so we have a couple of months a year that we can actually work outside, where the cold allows and where the mosquitoes allows. There's a gap there in both sides that we can have the luxury of painting outside. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think this. No, actually, this work doesn't have sääskiä, but maybe this has mosquitoes.
In the paint.
Yeah.
So it's not always easy to live up north, or maybe with mosquitoes and with Arctic weather, it can be
It can
harsh.
be tricky because our studio is very small, and we make big paintings. And we have been painting several works at the same time for this exhibition. So we've been also carrying them out and to the varasto, to the kind of what is it, varasto?
To storage.
But also we've been just cramped in the studio, and then we had to paint outside the biggest work, and it can be very cold.
Yeah, despite the mosquitoes and coldness, how would you describe how it is to be an artist living such an, can I say, remote place, or maybe Kittilä is not at all remote?
They are remote.
Yeah, so
We are the center.
you are the center. That's what I also think.
No, yeah, I mean it. I mean, I don't have a sense of, geographically maybe remote, but there's a lot of interesting things happen here in the north, and we have challenges with the weather and the climatic conditions. But every place has its plus and minuses. But it's really good to be here in the northern Finland today, in the day we are living. We have a strong community of artists, many of which are here with us today, and I think that's one of our strengths, that we because the density of population is such that there's not many of us, then we work together, and we are as a block, I think, supporting each other, and I think that's one of our strengths of being here, artists in the north.
Yeah, I agree. I think we draw a lot of energy, even though we are there in Kittilä, but we feel like there are all the colleagues and friends, they are here, and somehow that we are connected. Now, of course, we put up this exhibition, so we are also connected to these kind of wonderful institutions, and also it's so important to be able to be within the nature, and I think it's one of the most important things for me, at least, that I can paint, is that there is the nature that has its own rhythms, and even though we are making this machinery, but the pure nature, of course, and the kind of we live in the middle of forest, even though we are in the village, which is full of tourists now at this time. So we are lucky in that sense, that we can enjoy the nature, but still we can get out easily. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting and also important to mention how our surroundings are affecting us, and I think it's like that, as you say, that it's.
Yeah, it's massive. It's a big part of working here in the north. I think for many of us, like even if you don't work explicitly with nature, I think just the commanding presence of nature in this part of the world, I mean, it plays a very significant part in the art that is thought and produced, I would say, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that it kind of creates this space where the creativeness is possible. That, I don't know, as if it kind of gives some kind of frequency or something that is difficult to put in words, but it kind of rises there's something sacred and something where I find that it's easy to kind of to dive into to the creativeness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And following up what you're talking about, the sacredness, that is not something that abstract or that out of reach. I think the sacredness also that we aspire to with our works is that invitation of going beyond the conventional understanding mind that we use in our everyday life to communicate and to build our lives around. But of course our human nature, we believe, or I believe, encompasses much more than that. And I think many of the paintings are an invitation to, for some seconds at least, to drop that part of the understanding mind or the narrative mind and somehow be open to whatever the experience is inviting you to. So it's not an exhibition to be understood, even though it has some aspect has some, I think, some conceptual material to digest if you want to, but I think the ultimate, I was talking about layers before, I think the deeper you go into the perception and the experience of the works, the more you will get into a place where it's not about understanding and using your how do you call it, operational mind. Is somehow to kind of, as I said, put it to rest, and maybe that has to do with the sacrality you were mentioning before.
Yeah, are you actually sketching your works when you start, or you have some idea where do you start, or how does it go? Like how do you start working?
Yes.
We don't have one particular work. I think we move between different ways of approaching the process. One of them can be sketching. If we have an idea, maybe do some sketching, and using those sketches. Sometimes we use photographs. Sometimes we use nothing and we just jump into the painting and see what happens, which has been, I think, until this point the main way. A lot of kind of improvising from the beginning, which I thought that it had led us to more crossroads later on in the working process. So I think this time we have tried to get prepared a little bit more, and so we invested a bit of energy in actually trying to pin down more tarkasti, more
Yeah, you had really clear plans when we started to talk about this exhibition, and really,
much clearer than usually. Yeah, we had a plan this time. It worked actually. It helped a lot.
Yeah, really, really well. I think it's really beautiful and well balanced exhibition, which is there. But it's not only actually you. I mean, in this exhibition, it's you too. But before this, you had an exhibition in Helsinki in Gallery Sculptor where you were with 3 artists. So you have been also collaborating earlier with many people. How does that feel?
That's super exciting again, but it is because we have of course we've been doing this for a long time, but then suddenly when there's another ingredient thrown in the soup, it feels like it's again, you need to reposition yourself, and you see like, okay, it seems that I have these manners, but then you kind of can step out of it, and kind of, or you are actually not stepping, you are kind of ripped out of it, and then something new can start happening.
Yeah, that's also really unique that you invite other artists to work with you.
Yes.
And in this exhibition in Helsinki, there was the third artist was
Pauliina Turakka-Purhonen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. It was super good time. We were painting together. Actually, actual paint time we didn't have so much together. Maybe only 2 weeks in the end, or 3 weeks.
Yeah, we spent a week at her studio in Helsinki, and then she came to our place for another week.
Yeah.
A lot of communication.
Yeah, a lot of communication, and it wasn't surfing like easily. I remember I was there in her sofa in Arabia crying one day, like, very challenging moments as well, but yeah, in the end we somehow pulled it through.
Yeah, Amanda, I've been interested for a long time in collaborations, and when I was living in Australia I was also collaborating with some painters there, and also working with musicians, so painting at the same time that musicians were playing music, and it's something I would like to reconsider and being able to do here in Finland again. So if there's any musician listening to this that open to the invitation. and of course it doesn't work all the time with everyone. It has happened that for whatever reason our personalities with Raisa go in a certain manner that allow us to do not only guerrilla work, that is what people do when they come together. Sometimes many artists have this kind of how do you say, liaison of a couple of times, 3 times they work together, that of a consistent working relationship that goes over a decade now. So yeah, but I've been, and I do believe that the visual arts and painting in particular can experiment in what happens when you bring some people together, and some of the results can be unexpected and interesting. And I do appreciate also the individual practice of painting, which is really great, and I think that's what people do it. But why not to try different things?
And what I love in the collaborating is that you don't have anymore the ownership of the work, that you kind of lose it. It's not your artwork, it's you become a bit like transparent, and that's something that feels good.
Yeah, that's quite special also in these days where we are really individual, and it's all about maybe I don't know, quite strong individualism.
Yeah, it happens kind of like we all have to, like you say in Finnish, puhaltaa yhteen hiileen. Like the work, artwork is the thing that we all are concerned about, and we want the best for it, and we try to listen to it and what does it say, and each other, because then of course all of us have our own ways to see. So it's quite interesting to find this balance, like it's this surfing there, that listening, a lot of listening, like actively listening to each other and the work, like what's happening, and yeah.
Yeah, I think that's good advice for all of us maybe in our everyday life is to listen more maybe than to speak. But if I go back to this exhibition, can I ask you if there is some key work or a work which is really somehow maybe opening this exhibition somehow like specifically, or some work which is really important for the show?
To be honest, I don't know. I don't know
That's also fine.
how the exhibition is perceived. I think we have done our best, and I particularly feel satisfied with it. I don't know if there is any key work. I think probably time will tell, like through the perception of the community, which work stands out, something. But at this stage, I don't know.
Yeah, me neither. I can't pin any specific work, and I feel like all the work have been so important while making them, and maybe there was a couple of works that have been very close, and I felt like, oh, this is now there's something here, but then you move to the other one, and then it becomes like, of course, the paintings fill your days and your mind and your heart, so they are all somehow key works in the making, but no, I couldn't say now.
Maybe the text that is there, that we encouraged by Amanda. It's the game of the exhibition.
Yeah, maybe the text.
Of which it was written in English originally, and then was translated into Finnish. So if you can't read English, we would recommend to be read in English. And of course, if English is not that strong, then we have a Finnish translation as well.
It's good too.
Which is good too.
Yeah, it was nice to make that text together.
Yeah.
Maybe if you may, I would like to ask, it's also many other things you do beside doing art yourself, but you're also organizing things. For example, I have heard rumor that there is a biennale happening in Kittilä in Sirkka. Is that true?
It is, Amanda. It is. We will organize next year the 5th edition of the Sirkka Arte Biennale, which started as a coming together of friends, and hopefully it is still a coming together of friends. And so we invite artists from Lapland and from southern Finland and even international artists to come to our place and organize the little exhibition, which is really just an excuse to spend time together in quality conditions of you have sauna together and share ideas and share stories. And so we believe we are this kind of people, that we energize socially, and we believe there is value in spending time and learning from your peers, and so that's what we're trying to organize.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, so it's happening now the coming summer.
Yeah, it will be in September 25.
In September, right. So make sure that you are in Kittilä in September to see good art. I'm looking forward for that.
Yeah.
But maybe if there's something, would you like to add something, or should we open up for questions if there are any?
Yeah, go for it if anyone wants to ask anything.
Okay, eli voi myös kysyä kysymyksiä suomen kielellä. You may also ask questions in Finnish or in English if you'd like to ask something about this specific exhibition or about the process or anything. Now it's your moment. Yeah, I think it has been quite fascinating to hear now, so everyone are quite... There is one question there. Would you like to come maybe a bit closer? Is it?
I can raise my voice.
Okay, great.
Why don't you could you talk about the process, please? I find it fascinating, like everybody else, that we work together, but when you have a canvas that you're about to start, is it possible for you to share some of those actual steps you take?
Yes, I will just repeat that question. So the question was about more specifically about the process of working together. Where do you start?
Okay, so we have two paintings that we can see from here as a reference, for example, like having a concrete example. So what happened? Would you remember what?
Yeah, I do remember. For example, this bigger work here, I started it. We had an idea, we talked about it, and I remember that you were
taking credit now.
You were in Australia, and I started it just as pushing colors to the canvas.
You were in Australia. Excuses.
And then you came, and we started to.
Yes.
Actually, this has been painted
on the floor.
Together all the time after that first session, on the floor, at the same time. So that we are just on top of the canvas and smearing paint on it. And we kind of know where, like we have in our minds somehow the composition, we had been drawing it on paper beforehand, so we are very familiar with somehow what we are bringing there. And then we have few sessions like that together, and then in the end, if of course it slows down and gets more and more difficult, and you need to watch more and listen more, and is this kind of back and forth, and yeah, this kind of process it can be, for example.
Yeah, so yeah, that's right. I came from Australia and I saw it was a wonderful beginning, and at some point we decided. So the right side of the painting, can I say all those things? Can I reveal? The right side of the painting is almost how Raisa had it then, and we saw that there was an entry in the left side of the painting, and to build those trees up, and we had visited our friend Viljami Heinonen studio, and he gave us this liquid from Germany or something, and so we used this medium to create textures and to kind of build up the foliage, and we were working on the floor for some sessions, and it is true that later on at the later stages is more meditated movements, like we might spend some time looking at what does it need or what's happening.
Yeah, we talk a lot in the later stages. Yeah.
So we don't talk that much in the beginning. We just go for it, and she does her thing, I do my thing. In this particular instance, at the same time, just for maybe 3 sessions, 3 mornings, and then we will leave it apart. We work on different paintings, and it will come out. And we will look at it and what does it need, how is it going, and then we make further decisions, almost small actions then.
And in those things we can have roles. I think you are the very much like, there is still like you often are the one who is in the very last moments there, and I'm already like, I think it's good.
I do say a ver.
Yes.
I would like to turn back to this painting here. Was there any place for Misha to go and look at it, or an image photograph, something, or just your beginning when you came and saw it? Is there anything? Was there anything for Misha to match it? Or
I think there was. Yes, I think this had a picture that we had kind of as a reference point.
Yeah.
But then there was like, I think there's an experience of that like in many places. And this wood job and the pressu and very familiar.
So we are talking now about a fairly tiny painting which is next to the piano, and it's titled also nicely. It's called Ateneum.
And there are a lot of there are few pressuya, there are few tarpaulins, I think it's called in English, in the paintings. So I encourage you to kind of look for them and find them. It's of course an essential element of the Lapin piha.
Yeah, so loads of man-made things also in the nature here, not?
Yeah, and I would like to state, I think it's said in the text as well, that our intention is not to make a value judgment on the antithesis between the man-made world and the natural world. Of course, there are some disbalances there that need to be denounced, and I think many artists are doing great work in this respect. So it liberates us from having to do it. So our take to the relationship between so-called man-made world and natural world is slightly different. I think with these works we are trying to express our sympathy and our tenderness, even, I said in the text like this, towards our human clumsiness. Okay, we can't make any judgments of this because we have 2 cars in our yard there. They have died in the yard and they've been there for several years.
We try to get rid of them.
We try, but not enough yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a way of, at least in my mind, it's a way of honoring that relationship and hopefully trying to bring about, as I said before, a kind of beauty that lays beyond any of them. That kind of a bit perplexing beauty of finding palets near a bush and something happens there somehow. So yeah.
You said it well, yeah.
Thank
Kyllä.
you.
Yeah, and I think it's really, soon we can all go and see the exhibition if you haven't already done that, so then we can maybe discuss more about it.
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
it was beautifully wrapped also. Is there any more questions? Olisiko lisää kysymyksiä? If not, maybe I will now thank Raisa Raekallio and Misha del Val. This exhibition, Lapin Piha, is here at the Aine Art Museum until 13th of April, so there is plenty of time to come and see it again also. But I now encourage all of you to go and see it and also pick up the text, which is just there. So thank you so much, and I wish you all happy holidays. Hyvää joulua kaikille. Kiitos.
Kiitos.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda.
Kiitos
Thank
Amanda.
you.
Kiitos kaikki.